September was a really big month for me and my family. We welcomed another baby into our family. Uh, I'm on parental leave, taking things slow, taking care of our family, and while it's challenging, it's also been quite nice to slow down a bit. And I've been filling my downtime, whether I'm holding the baby or just resting and taking it easy, with reading manga. So I thought I'd share what I read in the month of September 2024. First off, I read the first 11 volumes of Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man is a manga series about a boy named Denji who makes a deal with a devil known as the Chainsaw Devil, which is actually his dog named Puchita, which is this tiny cute little dog with a chainsaw in its head. And by making this deal with Puchita, Denji can become Chainsaw Man, which is this sort of hero that fights other devils that are wreaking havoc. And through this, the story unfolds of Denji growing up, maturing, figuring out his place in the world. He befriends other devil hunters, kind of has this little family that forms around him, his roommates in his apartment. And it's this series, I really enjoyed it. I read it really quickly. It's funny. I really like the art style. It's gritty, it's gruesome, but it's also mixed in with some of those shonen manga tropes and kind of monster of the week type battles that I really enjoyed. Chainsaw Man is absolutely inspired by some of my favorite artists like Sotomo Nihei, Kyu Hayashida. I can really see their influence on Tatsuki Fujimoto's art and storytelling. So the first 11 volumes make up the first arc of the series, where it comes to an end with a conclusion, and it could have just ended there, but from what I understand is that the story continues on. I'm going to take a little break before continuing it, but there's a fair bit of humor, dark humor, which I really enjoyed. I thought that the pacing was a little bit off, like volume 9, 10, 11. Maybe I was just excited to finish them, but they just fly through. Where I thought that the first half of this first arc spent a lot more time with character development and building relationships, whereas then there's some twists and turns, and the story goes places, which I did ultimately enjoy. And I was able to get Chainsaw Man from my library. It was really cool that the library had Chainsaw Man. One thing I really like, which I think is a little underappreciated, is the colors of the covers. I really like the color choices and the way they're colored. I think this sort of like pop matte style is really, really cool. And I think Fujimoto's art is really rad. I have some of Fujimoto's other works that I will read this coming month in October. Like, I have some of his early work from before Chainsaw Man. These are short stories called one-shots in the manga world. Goodbye Eri and Look Back, which I've heard really great things about all of these. So I'm really excited about reading those. So that was Chainsaw Man. Next up, I read Hunter x Hunter. I read the first 119 chapters, which consists of the first 3 arcs, which are the Hunter Exam, Heaven's Arena, and York New City, which was a really nice introduction. I flew through those 119 chapters. I read them in the Shonen Jump app on my tablet. I knew basically nothing about Hunter x Hunter. I know that there are big fans of the series, people who just really love Hunter x Hunter and swear by it. I know that it's been on hiatus at various points, but beyond that, I didn't know much. I didn't know the characters really. I didn't know what to expect. I am familiar with the author Togashi's other work, Yu Yu Hakusho. I was a really big fan when I was young. I grew up watching it, loving it. I've read a bit of that manga, and I revisited the anime about 10 years ago. So I like Yu Yu Hakusho. I'd say I'm a fan of Yu Yu Hakusho. But I just never got into Hunter x Hunter. So I thought I could use like a comfort shonen series to dive into, especially on the other end of Chainsaw Man, something maybe a little more fun and longer to dig into. I gotta say, I'm a really big fan already. My phone background, I made it a Hunter x Hunter picture. which usually I don't set backgrounds on things. I love the characters. In particular, I like Killua and Kurapika a lot. Gon is fine. Like, there's no problem with him, but he's just a little too bland to like be my favorite. But he is fun, and I like his personality. I think it really fits nicely with the rest of the group. And I don't want to leave Leoria out too much, but he hasn't really like struck. He hasn't had a good arc yet. Where I think Kurapika in the York New City had a really good arc, and I think Gon and Killua during the Heavens Arena had a really great arc together. So maybe Leoria will get like a really great arc in the future. I don't know, but I'm prepared to become a fan of his too. But yeah, so I read it on the Shonen Jump app via the subscription. And just flew through the chapters. And I love that. That's one of the best parts of that subscription is you can just plow through the chapters and enjoy it. And during the first arc, I was enjoying getting to know the characters, in particular Killua, and not really knowing, you're kind of getting your bearings. Hisoka is sort of this villainous person who, filled me with a bit of dread, and you're worried about him. The art in the first arc, really inconsistent. There'd be pages where I would stop and be like, this seems unprofessional. And I know that Togashi's capable of really great art. You see it in Hunter x Hunter. You absolutely see it in Yu Yu Hakusho. So that led me to investigate, like, why is the art like this? I've kind of come to understand that he has some health issues, a lot of physical pain, and I think it just leads to this inconsistency, especially in that first arc. And it was interrupting my reading, right? I think when I was doing some research, you kind of see people go, Hunter x Hunter, the art's bad, therefore the series is bad. Or you see people go, the art's not bad, look at this amazing panel, or this amazing page. And I think people are sort of missing the problem there, which is not that whether his art is good or bad, it's about consistency, and it's about immersion. So if you're reading something, and sometimes this happens for an artistic reason, right? Someone will change stylistically to make you feel a different way. And I love that. That's like manga at its best, right? Maybe you'll see something in like a really serious style, and then it will shift to a panel or page where it's this sort of really cartoony, silly, humorous style. That makes more sense. That's not really about good or bad art. You don't need it to be this like mega high fidelity, like berserk-esque art all the time. But with Togashi's work, especially in that first arc of Hunter x Hunter, huge inconsistencies. Like, you'll see this amazing page or an amazing panel, and then you'll see just like slop. And it was really tough because I'd go to it and it would distract me, and I'd go like, why is this like this? And why is this so inconsistent? Because you know someone's capable of something, you want it to be that quality that whole way through. I think if you look at, for example, like his work, especially in Mob Psycho 100, he is not a super talented artist, but he uses it to humorous effect, and it's consistent. So when you're in that world, you get used to his style. But with Togashi, it's all over the place. In that first arc, that was like my one hesitation. But I was like, I'll just keep reading it, and I was enjoying it enough. But then it turns out, in the Heavens Arena and the York New City arcs, the art is really consistent. There wasn't a single page where I stopped reading because of like noticing the art was bad and sloppy. So that was, maybe he just had a rough start or had some rough chapters there. And I know that in the later chapters there's some rough art I've seen already. It gets really consistent. I didn't love the first arc, but I liked it enough to keep going. And I think he really hits his stride. Actually, I like the Heavens Arena arc. People might go, oh, it's not so interesting, or it's just a sort of battle arena. But actually what it is it explains Nen, the concept of like the sort of magic that exists in Hunter x Hunter. You really, Gon and Killua bond really closely. And that was where I fell in love with both of them. From the start of going to Killua's home, to kind of like him joining the group more formally, and Zushi and the martial artist teacher that they have. I really liked it. Just absolutely loved it. There's a lot of great Hisoka sort of dread, and just trying to figure out like what this guy's about. So that was great. I love that second arc. And then the York New City, just like, it blew me away. I absolutely loved it. Kurapika is an instant new favorite character. I think he's interesting. He has so much depth to him. There's a lot of kindness, but also a lot of like, he's looking to, get vengeance, and that's driving him forward. And that counterbalance with Gon, and then Killua, and a little bit of Leorio. I don't think Leorio has had a chance to shine yet, and I wonder if he will. I hope he does, because the York New City arc was really Kurapika, with a bit of Gon and a bit of Killua kind of doing their, like, trying to make money schemes. And then it all coalesces at the end with the spiders. Just, yeah, really masterful storytelling. And incredible pages, great fights. Really, really loved that arc. So, that's 119 chapters of Hunter x Hunter. And I've continued on with it. I just jumped right into the Greed Island arc. I'm enjoying that. I think it's like this thing where Togashi just must love card games and video games, or like thinking about them. I was trying to think like what's contemporaneously happening around this time, and like Yu-Gi-Oh is probably getting really popular. This is like the early 2000s, so maybe that's influencing some of the Hunter x Hunter, Greed Island, like video game, card game stuff. But yeah, just like totally loved what I've read of Hunter x Hunter, and have continued on. I'm feeling really dedicated to finishing the series and catching up, and I can see why people love it so much. And from what I understand, is like there's even more to dig into and fall in love with. I read the first 3 volumes of Frieren, which just sounds like a mumbled bunch of letters coming out of my mouth, but it's this fantasy manga about an elf who has a much longer lifespan than the humanoid and the dwarf characters. And so she goes on this quest with her party and defeats the demon lord. And then the party goes their separate ways. And the rest of the party grows old, right? Some of them die. But the main character, Frieren, she doesn't age because she's an elf. And so it's this exploration on the passage of time, like what happens after the RPG ends. How does a person who lives many, many lifetimes, many, many human lifetimes in their lifespan, connect with people and feel things and manage and deal with the passing of time and the passing of her friends? And I really liked these first 3 volumes. The art is consistently good. It's funny and cute in ways that I like. It really works well between flashbacks and the current present tense. This sort of arc is starting to appear where Frieren is revisiting past stops on her journey and is sort of recruiting party members, some of whom who have connections to her previous party members. And yeah, it's just this really original, interesting idea, and I enjoyed reading those first 3 volumes. I got those from my local library. I went and picked up the 4th volume. They actually had 4 through 10, so I was like, oh, I'm really enjoying this. I'll pick up the next 6 volumes and like I'll breeze through them. And I started reading the 4th volume, and it just didn't do it for me. I read halfway through it. I got up to around chapter 30, and I just felt like I was satisfied. Like I felt like I got what I needed out of the story. And I think part of the problem I have with the story is that there wasn't something propelling it forward. There was a really great battle sequence that happened, maybe at the end of volume 3, that I enjoyed, and a new character was then introduced. And clearly there's something bigger being built up, like maybe the Demon Lord will return, or there will be a new menace that her party needs to form to fight. But it just didn't feel like that was established yet, and there wasn't something propelling it forward, which I think like the best shonen series, like Chainsaw Man, for example, or even Hunter x Hunter, it's being propelled forward. Whether, like, for example, Gon wants to find Ging, or Jing, his father, and there's also some other big plot things that are set up, like Kurapika's plot, like, devices. And that's like, it propels you forward, and then you have these arcs within it that also propel it forward. Where I felt like with Frieren, that wasn't established, and it was taking a while to get there. I just sort of like phased out. So, yeah, let me know if I should keep reading it. I'm certainly not against it, but it just wasn't holding my interest. So I said, let me pause, let me read some other things, and maybe I'll come back to it, maybe I won't. But that's my thoughts on Frieren. But yeah, good art, quite beautiful. I really like the concept, and yeah, I'm sure people really love it. Next up, I read Mao by Rumiko Takahashi. I read chapters 1 through 24 on the Viz app, which is really cool that Rumiko Takahashi's work is available on the app. I love her work. I really like Ranma Half, Inuyasha. I grew up with Inuyasha. I really like Meisani Koku. So to me, she's one of the great manga artists. And Mao is her latest series. It follows the story of a girl who lost her parents and is able to travel back in time to different eras. She meets this guy who's like got cat ears, like some cat features, named Mao, who is sort of fighting demons. Now I know that sounds a lot like Inuyasha, and it is similar. It absolutely is similar in that setup, but there's different characters, the time periods are different, and yeah, she's telling a new story. And in that first 24 chapters, I really enjoyed it. It's not like the type of series that's gonna blow your mind. You're not gonna be like, profoundly changed by it. But it's just, she's really consistent, right? For someone who has been around since the 70s, releasing long serialized series, Rumiko Takahashi is the absolute queen of manga and so consistent. It's like comfort food, right? Like, you're not going to go and get the best dish of your life, but it's comforting, it's cozy, you can just hang out with it, read it. She's got a bigger plot that's being set up. She's tying it together. There's some good action. There's some good, like, little romantic seeds being planted. So, yeah, I'm enjoying Mao. Read those 24 chapters and thought, okay, I'm gonna take a little break, but I'll come back to it. And it's a long series. Like, I think it's already in the 200s for chapters. So, I'll pace myself. But yeah, that's Mao. Enjoyable comfort food. Next up is Shadows of the Demon Realm. Volumes 1, 2, 3, which I have a post-it note on, 4, and 5. So this is the latest series by Hiromu Arakawa, the author of Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist is my favorite series. Absolutely love it. I've read it multiple times. I reread it recently. Just a really big fan of it. I love her characters, her storytelling, the universe and the environment, her art. I think it's just really top notch. So when I saw that she had a new series out, I've been picking it up and reading it as it comes out, and I'll typically reread the volumes when a new volume comes out. And so volume 5 is the latest, and how would I describe it? Basically, your main character, whose name I can't remember, Yoru, his name's Yoru, he is raised in this village with his sister. I think his sister's name is Asa, A-S-A. And they grow up like in this isolated village where there's no outsiders, there's no modern technology, and he's sort of like protecting his sister, and he likes hunting, and he's like skilled in that way, like a skilled marksman and strong. The plot starts to unfold, and basically what you find out is that they're sort of being kept there against their will. They're not being told the whole truth. He eventually escapes from the mountain. His sister, plot revelations happen with his sister, and what a lot of the main characters have are these demons. So these are left and right, his two demons there. And there are a bunch of other really cool demons that come about with the story. And they fight one another, and there's this like larger plot being set up of these different like kind of like gang families and having access to things, to these different monsters, and it's sort of funny. Like there's a larger plot that's supposed to happen, but like I can't remember it. One of the main plot questions that's sort of driving this forward is like, what happened to Yoru's and Asa's parents? It's unclear, so we're trying to figure that out, and that's one of the major plot points. But I think there are a couple things, which is like in the wake of Full Metal Alchemist and Silver Spoon and her other works, but in particular comparing this like action series to Full Metal Alchemist, it doesn't reach those heights. Like early on in the first 5 volumes of Full Metal Alchemist, you have this interesting world, you have these like small plot arcs that occur and resolve themselves, and they're just incredible. You get to know the characters and really love them. It's like peak action shonen manga. Shadows of the Demon Realm doesn't reach those heights, and it's hard to not compare them. And so it doesn't reach the heights of Full Metal Alchemist. And that's something that I've been trying to not think about while I read it, but like you want it to be as good and you want to love it as much, but I'm not. I'm just not. And I'm enjoying it though, right? I'm enjoying reading it, but I think there's this sort of plot device missing. So like in Full Metal Alchemist, you have the boys, Edward and Alphonse, who want to, at first, revive their mother, and that sort of sets the arc in motion, but then they want to get their bodies back. And so when you have this clear end goal, and then you're telling these stories around it, it works really well. Shadows of the Demon Realm is missing that, in my opinion. It just doesn't have that yet. It has characters that are interesting. The demons are really, really interesting. I think they're fun, and the art is just as gorgeous as ever. Arakawa is a great artist, and there's a bit of humor, and it's fun and funny, but it hasn't like clicked yet, and I hope it does soon. I hope it like turns a corner and has this bigger plot that happens. But right now I'm just sort of like, yeah, I haven't instantly fallen in love with it like I did with Full Metal Alchemist, and I think I'm hopeful though, and we'll kind of keep seeing how it goes. So that is Shadows of the Demon Realm 1-5. Next up, I read the first volume of Hellsing. This is the second edition. I got volumes 1-8 used for a really good price. The main character, Alucard, is a vampire who fights for the humans, fighting vampires. The Hellsing organization is who like employs him in a sense. I read this when I was younger. I watched the anime when I was younger, and I wanted to revisit it, especially with October and Halloween coming up. So, revisiting the series, I thought I'd kind of share my thoughts on revisiting it, which is, I think the art is amazing. The style is incredible. Kota Harano's art is just unlike any others. He's got this mature, dark style to him. The character designs are really cool. I really, really like the main Hellsing lady's design. I think she is so cool. Her name is escaping me right now, which hurts. Integra, I think is her name, and from peeking at it. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and really enjoyed revisiting it. I never finished the series originally. Like, I read maybe like 2 or 3 or 4 volumes and watched the anime, and have a fondness for it. So I'm excited to finish it. The first 8 volumes are out, which I have, and then 9 and 10 are coming out next year. So that's Hellsing. Not too much to say here other than really impressed by the art. I think it has a really unique style. Not Simple by Natsume Ono is another manga I read. I got this used. I really like Ono's art style. She has a very, very stylish, unique art style that I think someone might see and think, oh, that seems amateurish, or it seems a little basic. I'm here for it. I think it is amazing art. I think does a lot with it, and uses it to tell some really great stories. So this is a complete story in a single volume. It is about our main character. It's a tragedy. The story is a tragedy, and it's about this main character and his search for his sister. And it's told a little bit out of order. It's cut kind of up into pieces. It's a little bit heartbreaking. It's melancholic. It's sweet at times. It's mature, right? This is literary manga, in my opinion. This is a person who's trying to reach a new type of reach a level of storytelling that's more mature than maybe your battle action manga, your shonen manga. It's not set in a school. These are adult characters with adult themes and challenges and emotions, and there's a lot left unsaid, which makes it really engaging to read. So I enjoyed it. I like a single volume where you can just like sit down and like you can just read it in a few hours on a day. So that's Not Simple by Natsumi Ono. A good one, an enjoyable one, and I think her work is definitely worth checking out. I'm going to read more of her work. I'm pretty familiar with her work, but I want to dive deeper and read more of what she's done. So that's Not Simple. Next up is Tokyo These Days by Taiyo Matsumoto. This is a manga about manga. It is a manga for manga lovers, and it's for like adult manga lovers. Not like adult manga, but manga for adults, where he's an older manga artist, right? At this point, he's probably in his 50s, 60s, and he's telling stories about like aging men and women, and the story is basically an editor at a manga magazine in Japan. He retires, basically. He leaves his job because the magazine that he was working for at his publisher folded and got canceled, which he was responsible for. So he kind of takes it upon himself to like fall on the sword and leave. He leaves his job, but he still wants to do something with manga. And so in this first volume, you find him going and reaching out to his old friends, the old people he was the editor of, and trying to like solicit work for them because he wants to make his own manga like sort of collection or story, and with these people he used to work with. And so you're following this main character as he's talking to people, eating with them, reflecting on the past. You're learning about their relationships. A lot of them are manga artists. So it's the story. It's like when there's a film about making films, like the movie F is for Fake by Orson Welles. Like, you really enjoy it if you're a film lover. And I think Tokyo These Days is a manga series you would really love if you love manga, if you love Taiyo Matsumoto's work. He's the author of Ping Pong, Tekken Kinkri, Go-Go Monster, Number 5, Cats of the Lurve. He's just this amazing, one of my favorite manga artists. And he's so sensitive, does a great job at telling these stories. It throws away a lot of modern manga tropes, and he has his own style, his own storytelling language. And I cried during this first volume. It's just got these emotional beats and moments. He has great style. So Tokyo These Days, that was volume 1. I'm reading volume 2 now, which I'll talk about in October. Talk about the series more, but I really think this is like one of the best manga series that has been released this year. And I got it from my library, so I love it when the library has good manga. Next major series I read is Kagurabachi. I read the first 20 chapters of this. This is a shonen battle manga series. It follows a boy who's the son of a blacksmith who wields these special blades infused with basically magic. And so he built these blades that were used in this war and helped stop the war. The war ended, and now these blades are like the major plot device where people want to get access to them and they want to know their secrets, and if you like wield the blade you have all these powers. And so Kagurabachi follows this main character, the blacksmith's son, and he's trying to figure out like who killed his dad, who dies like really early on, and is like somewhat seeking revenge, somewhat trying to stop these blades that his father made from being misused. There are like these evil factions that occur. There's this like state-run like defense force that like reminds me a lot of Bleach. And you have this main character. And you have these blades. But then also you have these sorcerers that can cast magic. So you kind of like, if all this sounds a bit like Bleach and Naruto and Jujutsu Kaisen and like your shonen, it's like a modern shonen series. And it's cool. Like the art is undoubtedly cool. It looks great. It's interesting. There's a larger plot being set up that I'm enjoying. There's some big fights that come together well, and it's sort of like poised to be like the next big Shonen Jump series, I think. It's the first volume print hasn't come out in America, but it's supposed to in 2025. So maybe that, plus the story getting a little longer, coming along, plus maybe there'll be an anime or something. It seems like it'll be like one of the next big series, if I had to guess. And it's like, it's set in modern day, sort of ish, but there's a lot of sword, like almost samurai-esque action happening. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I'm not like super in love with it, but I'm certainly interested in continuing to read on. And it's about 50-ish chapters in, so I'll be able to catch up and like read it as it comes out. So that's Kagurabachi. And finally, to wrap up September, I just want to talk about 3 new series that started getting serialized in Shonen Jump, simultaneously published in English. Those are Ichi the Witch, which is a story about a world where only women can wield magic, or like a super majority of it's just women who wield magic. They sort of like, are the powerful leaders. And the main character, this younger boy, Ichi, kind of is like this feral kid in the forest. And he, through the series of events of the first chapter, gets access to magic and like a spell creature. And the first chapter is great. Like, it's funny, there's some good action, there's a nice balance, the world is interesting. I really like the first chapter. Like, oh yeah, I'll keep reading this, see where it goes. But then each chapter since, it's kind of losing me a little bit by a little bit, where I'm like, yeah, there's really nothing interesting happening yet, and it's like kind of funny, but it's not so funny that I'm like loving it, and the characters just aren't quite doing it for me yet. So I'll keep reading Ichi the Witch, but I'd say I'm like, I'm like lukewarm about it. Secondly is this series called Shinobi Undercover, which I'm enjoying quite a bit more than Ichi the Witch. Shinobi Undercover is a story of these like ninja who work for the government to like protect people, and the main character is really, really shy and doesn't like to talk to people. He has a lot of anxiety about it. And his assignment is to protect this young girl who goes to school. So he has to go to school and like sort of befriend her and protect her. And there's other like shinobi stationed with him at the school, and they have to fight the bad villains off. So you get this comedy with his personality and befriending the person he's supposed to protect, and some good action. And it's just like, yeah, it's been fun. Curious if Shinobi Undercover where it goes, because I think the main premise of him being anxious and like not a good communicator, it could get old and annoying. So we'll see, but I'm enjoying it so far, the first few chapters, and I'll stick with it. And then the last new series that started in September is called Harutaku, which is about these 2 characters who want to make video games. And I have a bit of a background in game development. It's what I went to school for. I made games as a hobby, and I'm really familiar with the process. So I thought, oh, this sounds like fun. Maybe it'll be too close to home, and therefore like not be enjoyable. But so far, it's been fun. The first chapter, like, he makes a game with his classmate, and it's a good time. Like, the main character, whose name I can't remember, he like gets taken advantage of because he doesn't have many friends. And so this other girl kind of comes in and says, we should work together on this game to like get you the respect of your classmates, which is really weird, but it's like kind of cute and fun. And we'll see how it goes. I don't know what the main arc will be, like if they need to make a game that makes so much money, or competitions, or that type of thing. I don't know what the main motivation will be, so yeah, we'll see. But Harutaku, it's fine, it's fun, it's interesting, and with these new series, it's interesting. Like, you wait week after week to read the new chapter, and it's so quick to read a chapter that you're just like, I'll just stick with it and see what happens. And is it good? Is it bad? It's tough to say. Like, I really think it takes like 12 to 20 chapters to really get a handle on, like, to tell a story and have some character development. So it's early on with those, and we'll see. But I'll stick with them and share updates in the future. But that is what I read in the month of September in 2024. I'm excited about October. Got a bunch of things I'm going to read, and I'll share. And yeah, thanks for hanging out and talking about manga, and let me know what you've been reading. Take care.